What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another video of Packers Latest. I am your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news of the green and gold Green Bay Packers. A happy Monday to all of you watching out there, and a huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Feel free to scan the QR code right up there if you want to sign up for Underdog Fantasy. I've given you my picks of the past couple of weeks, and I've been kind of on a hot streak. I was focused in on Caleb Williams this week, going higher than 217.5 passing yards, which, despite the Bears losing in that game, he did crush that line, and man, he had one of the wildest throws I've ever seen in playoff history. Unfortunately, did not end positive for him, but yards-wise, he did crush that over 217.5 yards. If you place your first $5 in Underdog Fantasy, you will win $75 in bonus entries, so you do not want to miss out on that. Today's episode for Packers Latest, talking about possible defensive coordinators that the Packers could hire if Jeff Hafley does walk away from Green Bay. Hafley getting a lot of talks from teams around the league. Seems like his talks with the Miami Dolphins are progressing at a pretty positive and a pretty fast rate, where he could possibly be their new head coach. That would be really neat to see for Hafley, but really sad for the Packers to lose a name like Jeff Hafley as their defensive coordinator. I got two veteran coaches on this list. I got two guys that have been with the Packers this season that maybe could be candidates. And again, after I read all four of these names, let me know if one sticks out to you in the comments below. Let me know if none of these stick out to you. Let me know if all four stick out to you. If there's a name I should have added on here, love to hear your feedback, who you think the Packers should hire for their defensive coordinator if Jeff Hafley does unfortunately walk away from the Packers. Going to start this one off with Raheem Morris, the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I know I don't have the word former down below there, but he is the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. After just a couple seasons there, just kind of some disappointing football from where Atlanta's expectations were with the new head coach, and it did unfortunately lead him to being fired, but that doesn't mean him as a defensive coordinator historically has been bad. One thing to note about Morris, he is a close friend of Matt LaFleur, strong personal and professional connection. That's something that you can start off right there with Matt LaFleur being extended as the Packers head coach. You like to have a personal and professional connection on your coaching staff. One of the most versatile coaches in football, in my opinion, is Raheem Morris as well. You know, a veteran coach, a older coach, lots and lots and lots of experience with different teams. As, you know, a different coach on all these teams. He's coached defensive backs, wide receivers. He's been a defensive coordinator before. He's clearly been a head coach before. Unfortunately, did just get fired. So he's been around in multiple positions with multiple teams. He has a lot of experience. He was most recently a defensive coordinator with the Los Angeles Rams, spent 3 years under Sean McVay, and in that 2021 season, Morris was there where he won the Super Bowl over the Cincinnati Bengals with the Los Angeles Rams. I think that's another big thing to note. This guy wasn't just a defensive coordinator, he was also a winner on a playoff level team. Kind of where the Packers are right now, you know, trying to get to that Super Bowl, but a playoff level team as we saw this season. Matt LaFleur has been there 7 seasons. The Packers have reached the playoffs in 6 of those, and they've reached it in the past 3 seasons, all with Jordan Love. So it would be nice to add a guy that has that playoff experience, that has that veteran experience that you can bring into a team with expectations of the playoffs. So in my opinion, that makes him the most ready defensive coordinator option out of the ones I'm going to talk about today. There are some names I don't have on here. I think Brian Flores is another interesting one, but he's a guy kind of, you know, that seems like he could get a head coaching job somewhere despite being a defensive coordinator this season with the Vikings. A big reason why I didn't include him, but I'm focusing on Morris and some of the other guys now, not to sidetrack, but I think that Morris out of this whole list today is my favorite candidate for the Packers. But again, feel free to leave, you know, a comment down below if you think someone else sticks out to you that I mentioned or that I did not mention in this video. That's going to move me on to the second possible candidate, in my opinion, for defensive coordinator for the Packers, and that is former Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon. Gannon, a very unfortunate tenure with the Arizona Cardinals, just a 15-36 record, which that is definitely pretty rough. Just a pretty I think rough might be kind of a light term for 15-36. I mean, he took over a Cardinals team that was kind of looking in that rebuild mode. He didn't really enter with much, but he couldn't build them up anywhere close to contention. The Cardinals, one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, leading to Gannon's firing. So I know that makes it a little bit of a question mark. Do you want a guy that spent 3 seasons with a team with little to no success and then getting fired? Do you want to bring someone like that into an organization like the Packers? In my opinion, it's still a possibility because the Packers are looking for a defensive coordinator and not a head coach, and they're looking for a defensive coordinator to join a defense that has a lot of star pieces that should be back and healthy near the start of the season. Micah Parsons, the biggest name on that defensive side. Who knows if he'll be good for week 1, maybe more leaning towards week 3 based on what we've heard from him. But again, nonetheless, a very ready defensive unit with the big names that they hold. A big thing about Gannon, kind of like Morris, was a defensive coordinator before his recent head coaching job where he ended up getting fired. He was the Eagles defensive coordinator for 2 seasons, and one of those seasons was that 2022 Super Bowl run with Philadelphia. And in my opinion, kind of built one of the NFL's more dominant pass rushes over the past couple of years. I mean, that was a very, very strong unit. And you look at the pass rush that the Packers could have, who knows if Gary will be here next season, if that'll look a little different. But let's just start with the name of Micah Parsons. That's a pretty good guy to start with when you've had success with pass rushing units. So again, Gannon, definitely a possible candidate. I like Morris a lot more, but not trying to, just pin in on one guy, because if the Packers aren't able to get him, you got to look at who else is out there. I think Gannon is an interesting candidate. Again, tons of question marks there. I mean, he did have some issues kind of with players. I think he got in some interaction with the Cardinals running back maybe 2 seasons ago. There was a big, mishap there, and kind of question marks about Gannon's attitude. This is all the stuff that the Packers will look into. I'm just looking at it more from the outside perspective. But from what I've seen from Gannon and more of his defensive, history as being a coach, not as much of a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, I don't think that it would be a bad option. But before I get into the last 2 names of 2 guys that are currently on the Packers coaching staff, I have to give a huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the gridiron action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick if your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Get them right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Again, this week on Underdog, I was dialed in on that Bears and Rams game where I had Caleb Williams higher than 217.5 passing yards. I believe when I had my 5 picks a couple episodes ago, I had 3 highers and 2 lowers, and I think Williams went higher on all 5. So I give myself, 3 out of 5 on the week. Could have been a little bit better. I did not account for how well he was going to rush. He had one really big rush that definitely helped boost where his lines were sitting to that higher mark. But in all of his passing numbers, I had higher on the passing yards, higher on the passing touchdowns, higher on the completions. All of those hit. Williams, with a pretty strong game, did end in an unfortunate fashion with that interception in overtime. But nonetheless, I enjoyed making my picks. I always enjoy reading them to you guys, even if it's a player on the Bears and not on the Packers, because the Packers are not in the playoffs anymore. Still tons and tons of games to look at all around. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code FOOTBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code FOOTBALLFAN. Underdog. Make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-878 or text HOMI 467-369.
I welcome you back to Packers Latest. Now talking about the last 2 names I have on here. 2 guys that are currently on the Packers coaching staff, but not as a role as a defensive coordinator. We start off with the defensive lines coach and run game coordinator in DeMarcus Covington. Covington is a guy that's actually being looked at by other teams for a possible defensive coordinator role. Those 2 teams as of now at time of recording on Monday morning being the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Jets. You look at Covington on his career, he's kind of been a fast rising coach, with roots tied to the Patriots very strongly. Going to kind of take it year by year. He's been with the Patriots for many, many years before joining the Packers. You go to 2017 to 2018, he was a coaching assistant with New England. So again, the time with New England kind of in that Belichick, Mayo era. You go to 2019, he was the outside linebackers coach. 2020 to 2023, the defensive line coach. 2024, the Patriots' defensive coordinator, and then 2025 now with the Packers as a defensive line coach and run game coordinator. So he's been around multiple positions, a lot with the Patriots, but an experienced, Patriots coaching staff. Definitely kind of thinned out over these past couple of seasons. Patriots now back on track. They're doing great things now in the AFC Championship, but Covington has got great experience and definitely great experience this season, kind of holding 2 roles with the Green Bay Packers. And, this defense for the Packers, the names are pretty good. The health of the names, not so good. Devontae Wyatt going down for the season. Micah Parsons, in that game against the Broncos going down for the season. So Covington has had kind of a tougher role with the health of this Packers defensive line, but I still feel like he did a very solid job overall. Kind of already making an impact in my personal opinion. In my notes here, I kind of have him as a higher upside option but he does, kind of less experience than these veteran candidates, but that's just kind of what you're going to get. He is less experienced years-wise, but with all the positions he's had and kind of being able to stay with the team and the Patriots and get new positions and really stay with one organization, I think is a very positive sign. It would be neat to see if the Packers do the same thing, get promotions year after year throughout the same organization. So that is my first possible candidate for the Green Bay Packers to look at for a defensive coordinator if they want to stay within the organization. The last name I'm going to talk about today, you go to the pass game coordinator in Derek Ansley. He could possibly be a candidate for defensive coordinator. He has a long background coaching defensive back specifically, both at the college and NFL level, but kind of focusing in more on the NFL level because it is more recent. He started in the NFL in 2018 with the Raiders as the defensive backs coach. Then he moved on to the Tennessee Titans from 2019 to 2020 as their defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach. Then he moved on to the Los Angeles Chargers from 2021 to 2022 as the defensive backs coach, and then 2023 as their defensive coordinator before coming over to the Green Bay Packers as their pass game coordinator. He's had a lot of big names himself, being able to develop guys like Xavier McKinney, who the Packers got from the Giants, or you even go to draft picks, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, kind of guys from all different places. McKinney enters, he's kind of an established pro. You get Evan Williams drafted in the 4th round, now he's looking like a steal in that draft. Javon Bullard drafted a little bit higher, more expectations from him. So he's got a lot of names thrown at him from all different scenarios, all different backgrounds, all different expectations, and he's put together a pretty strong pass game unit, in my opinion. The corners could, get a little bit of work, but in my opinion, I just feel like that's the depth of the position. Keyshawn Nixon leading that room and lots of guys behind him hurt or not the strongest as corners. You bring in Nate Hobbs, who did not have a great season. He couldn't stay healthy. You bring in Bo Melton to be there, and he doesn't even play. I mean, you have him as a possible option trying to switch over, but he really doesn't even play. So kind of a tough situation in the cornerback room there. Really was just Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine really holding down the corners, and then you got Javon Bullard in the nickel. So definitely some tough struggles with the names and with the depth, but I feel like he's done a solid job as well. And again, another interesting name where he could get a promotion within the same organization. But hey, feel free for you guys to let me know if you like any of these names that I listed. If you don't like any of these names, if there's one that I should have put in here that I didn't have, you let me know. I always love to read the comments, love to read your feedback, love to read your thoughts, because it's the off season for the Packers. There's tons to talk about, even if there's no football on the field, especially in the coaching department. But I appreciate you guys tuning in for yet another episode of Packers Latest, and go Pack Go.